In the heart of one of the world's most luxurious metropolitan areas, there is a street where wealth and possibility seem to vanish entirely. Here, life is measured not by square footage, but by the few feet of cracked pavement you can claim. Look closely. This isn't just a street. It is a city of handmade tents, a sprawling makeshift existence where thousands of people are fighting for their very survival, making a life on the cold ground. That is the shocking reality that most of the world drives right past. Welcome to Globe Path Travel Documentary, where we uncover the hidden stories and unseen realities of the world. Today, we are attempting to understand the deep roots of this concentrated human difficulty. Stay with me till the end, because this story will change how you see the world. Don't skip.
The hidden side. A city within a city. The journey into this specific area of the city is less like a trip down a street and more like crossing an invisible, profound boundary. One moment you are surrounded by the bright lights and rush of commerce. People texting, rushing to meetings, their lives measured in appointments and commutes. The next moment, the air changes, the pace slows, the sounds are different. You have entered the hidden side. My exploration did not start with a camera, but with a question that felt heavy in the silence. How does an entire community come to reside on a sidewalk? The answer, of course, is a mosaic of failure, circumstance, and resilience. It is the beginning of our story, but it is the continuation of thousands of personal tragedies. The first, most striking visual here is the sheer density of the encampments. These are not isolated, scattered incidents. This is a continuous, tightly packed landscape of tents, tarps, and makeshift shelters, transforming the pavement into a complex, sprawling urban village. It is a city within a city, governed by its own unspoken rules of survival and community. We must understand what these tents truly are. They are not merely temporary structures. They are the last defense in a war against invisibility and exposure. They are the final, fragile barriers, thin pieces of nylon and plastic separating vulnerable human beings from the chaotic, indifferent noise of the larger world, and most critically, from the very elements. They stand against the biting cold of the morning and the relentless heat of the afternoon sun. They represent a desperate, tenacious grip on the idea of privacy, a precious commodity that vanishes completely when life moves onto the street. To be without a physical home is to be constantly exposed. Think of what you keep locked away. Your identity, your history, your sleep, your moments of rest and reflection. For the people here, all of that is conducted in public view. The tents, no matter how ragged, restore a fraction of that lost boundary. They are a sign that a person has not completely given up on the need for a personal space, a small, dark corner to retreat to. The atmosphere is not chaotic in the way you might expect. It is heavy, thick with a deep, pervasive silence. It is the silence of people trying their best to manage unimaginable circumstances with profound exhaustion. When you look at the ground, you see the intricate systems of survival, the careful bundling of blankets, the use of carts to move possessions, the ingenious ways people try to gather water or power a small phone. These are acts of incredible resourcefulness, not resignation. It is crucial to approach this space not with pity, but with respect for the sheer tenacity required to navigate this existence. Each tent holds a life story, a journey that began somewhere else, a home, a job, a family, before the slow, agonizing descent that ended here. The sidewalk is not the cause. It is merely the destination when all other doors have closed. To walk these blocks is to receive a constant, difficult lesson in the sheer fragility of stability. You realize how little separates any of us from the street, and how the absence of a simple key and a locked door can utterly rewrite a person's future. This hidden side is a world that exists in plain sight, yet remains unseen by most. It is the challenging but necessary beginning of our effort to understand the crisis through the lens of those who live it every hour of every day. We begin here, with the sight of these fragile shelters, to fully appreciate the resilience required to simply survive.
Real people and their silent struggles. The true complexity of this story can only be found by moving past the wide-angle view and focusing on the individual faces. To dismiss this community as a single, homogeneous group is to miss the staggering depth of human experience concentrated here. Every person resting on this pavement carries a history that began somewhere else, a life once anchored by routine, ambition, and belonging. We encountered individuals who, only a short time ago, were actively contributing members of society. They were parents, veterans, and skilled laborers. Their presence here is not a sudden arrival, but the devastating conclusion of a series of severe compounding losses. Imagine losing your security not through a single event, but a slow, agonizing erosion. First, the loss of employment, then the slow severing of family connection and social support, and finally, the ultimate crushing loss of a secure roof overhead. Many of the people we spoke with are grappling with intense substance challenges or the overwhelming weight of deep, untreated mental health struggles. It is a desperate existence that makes overcoming these challenges almost impossible. One individual, who possessed a remarkable memory for history, shared how the constant trauma of street life, the perpetual danger and sleepless nights, amplified his anxiety to an unmanageable level, fueling his need for temporary escape. The struggle is relentless, a silent war waged internally just to maintain basic composure and sanity. This struggle is profoundly silent because it is often ignored or judged. The world rushes past, focusing on the visible symptoms while completely missing the root trauma. Yet, despite the complete erasure of their material possessions and the systematic denial of their basic needs, their fundamental human dignity remains. It is evident in the small, defiant acts of self-care, keeping a small area tidy, sharing a meager resource, or simply offering a brief, knowing nod to a neighbor. These actions are proof that the spirit, however bruised and battered, is not broken. To truly see these people is to recognize their past life, respect their present endurance, and understand that their story is still waiting for a hopeful next chapter. Why this happens. The root. Causes to truly grasp the magnitude of human difficulty concentrated in this neighborhood. We must pivot from the individual story to the towering invisible forces that place them there. The street is merely the visible outcome. The root causes are deep structural failures of policy and economy. This is not a story of individual choice. It is the heartbreaking consequence of intersecting, systemic breakdowns. The primary and most crushing root cause is the affordable housing crisis. In a city bursting with capital and architectural grandeur, the financial security required to maintain a simple roof over one's head has become unattainable for the working poor. Housing is no longer a human right here. It is an increasingly scarce commodity. As rents continue their relentless upward trajectory, the margin for error in a low-income life shrinks to zero. A person earning minimum wage is often forced to dedicate nearly all their earnings simply to keep a precarious apartment. This economic fragility means that a single common setback, a chronic illness, the unexpected need to fix a broken car, or a temporary layoff, is enough to shatter a life into fragments. The street tragically becomes the only remaining option, acting as the merciless endpoint of a massive, systemic housing imbalance. Compounding this economic disaster is a systemic lack of care, particularly in two critical areas: specialized support for severe mental health challenges and comprehensive assistance for substance struggles. For too long, these essential health services have been drastically under-resourced and inaccessible to those without private insurance or stable addresses. When a vulnerable person, perhaps reeling from trauma, job loss, or a genetic predisposition, reaches out for help, the resources often simply aren't there. They encounter wait lists that stretch for months, temporary beds that offer no real stability, or treatment programs that demand compliance that a person in crisis cannot possibly maintain. This deficiency ensures that, instead of receiving compassionate medical intervention, the personal struggle escalates, leading directly to the inability to maintain housing and, ultimately, accelerating the spiral into homelessness. The result is a failure to treat illness, resulting in visible societal collapse on the sidewalks. Finally, we must acknowledge the destructive power of potent synthetic compounds. These substances have tragically redefined the crisis. Their widespread availability and low cost, combined with their extreme potency, create a new, devastating layer of difficulty. These compounds quickly and violently overwhelm a person's physical and psychological defenses, accelerating the descent into a highly vulnerable and disorganized state. This isn't merely addiction as we understood it a decade ago. It is an immediate, deadly hazard that complicates every effort toward recovery and stability. The speed and severity with which these substances can dismantle a person's ability to function add a dangerous urgency to the systemic failures of housing and healthcare, forcing the crisis to move faster than the social services designed to contain it. In essence, the problem we see concentrated on these few blocks is the product of three forces colliding: economic precarity, removing shelter, care deficiencies failing to treat illness, and powerful substances accelerating vulnerability. Recognizing this complexity, rather than assigning simple individual blame, is the essential first step toward finding a sustainable, compassionate solution. The human impact, what it feels like. After examining the systemic root causes, we must now delve into the human cost, what it truly feels like to survive on the margins of prosperity. The reality of life on the street is defined by constant vulnerability. This isn't just a physical threat, it is a pervasive internal state of being. Imagine the sheer bone-deep exhaustion of never being truly safe, of having no lockable door, no protected space to simply rest and recharge. Sleep becomes a risky proposition, a fragile window of unconsciousness that leaves one exposed to the elements and external threats. The daily existence is a logistical and emotional marathon. Every single possession that defines a life, papers, photos, a meager supply of clean clothing, must be carried, secured, and constantly accounted for, often compressed into a single backpack or a plastic bag. This physical burden is a constant, tangible reminder of a life stripped down to the essentials of survival. It is the overwhelming effort required just to maintain a shred of cleanliness, to find a private moment for personal dignity, or to secure a warm meal. But the heaviest toll is the emotional and psychological weight. The feeling that permeates this community is one of profound isolation. In a city of millions, where people walk past with their faces buried in their phones, the prevailing atmosphere is the emotional cold of being ignored by society. This invisibility is soul-crushing. When you are constantly stepped over, when your suffering is treated as background noise or a nuisance, it takes a severe toll on the inner spirit. This is the deep human tax, extracted by the feeling of being utterly disposable. For many, this relentless weight, the shame, the loneliness, the exhaustion, becomes unbearable. The desire to seek a temporary reprieve, a moment of silence or numbness from the crushing weight of reality, is an understandable, desperate reaction to unrelenting trauma. It is an escape from the pain of being cold, hungry, and, most agonizingly, unseen. To address the crisis, we must first recognize that we are not simply fighting a lack of housing, but fighting the devastating psychological impact of total human neglect. The recovery must begin with restoring safety, dignity, and connection, acknowledging that what was lost here was far more than just four walls and a roof. The bigger picture, a city's reflection. To truly understand the story of these streets, we must step back and view this neighborhood not as an isolated problem, but as a critical reflection of the entire metropolis. This community is a profound and painful paradox. In the shadow of prosperity, just blocks from soaring luxury and economic power, the most vulnerable citizens are fighting for basic survival on the pavement. This juxtaposition highlights an almost unbelievable gulf between the very rich and the extremely vulnerable. This area serves as a visible, undeniable plea for a more equitable and compassionate approach. It forces every person in the city to confront difficult questions about priorities. The sheer concentration of human difficulty here is not a spontaneous event. It is the brutal consequence of systemic failures in housing, healthcare, and economic opportunity. When specialized support for mental health challenges and substance struggles is inaccessible and affordable housing vanishes, the inevitable result is visible suffering on this scale. The crisis compels us to acknowledge a fundamental principle. The true health of a society is measured not by the success of its wealthiest citizens, but by how it cares for the ones with the least. When a segment of the population is systematically abandoned, it reveals deep fissures in the social fabric. This reflection demands that we move beyond passive observation and commit to structural solutions that prioritize human dignity as a foundational necessity, ensuring that no one is left behind in the relentless pursuit of progress. Rays of hope. People helping. Change happening. In a neighborhood defined by overwhelming difficulty, the true measure of a community's heart is found in those who consistently refuse to surrender to despair. Despite the scale of the challenge, there are dedicated individuals and organizations who arrive every day, offering tangible help and a credible pathway forward. Their work is a profound counter-narrative, proving that change is possible, one life at a time. These sources of hope often take the form of outreach workers, the unsung heroes of the streets. They are not policymakers or politicians. They are people who commit to the slow, painstaking process of building trust. They understand that to offer help, you must first offer presence and respect. They walk the sidewalks, not just with supplies, but with consistent, non-judgmental encouragement. They provide basic necessities that restore dignity: clean socks, water, and warm meals. More crucially, they provide essential medical intervention, including the distribution of overdose-reversing medication and basic first aid, saving countless lives that might otherwise be lost in the shadow of the encampments. Their efforts extend far beyond immediate relief. These organizations are the vital bridge between the street and stability. They tirelessly connect individuals with the resources required for a long-term turnaround: access to treatment programs for substance challenges, psychological support for mental health struggles, and assistance with the complex paperwork required for permanent, supportive housing. This continuous, compassionate engagement is a powerful testament to the force of human connection. It demonstrates that even the smallest gesture can be the spark that reignites a person's hope for recovery and a stable future. When a person who has been invisible for years is consistently seen, acknowledged, and treated with genuine respect, it begins to heal the deep psychological wounds of isolation. The hope here is not a false promise. It is the resilient belief, demonstrated daily, that every individual is worthy of a second chance, and that a sustained effort, guided by empathy, will ultimately succeed in rebuilding lives and restoring dignity. This dedication is the most inspiring part of the entire journey. The lesson or reflection. What we learn. After witnessing the complexity and the resilience on these streets, our journey culminates in a necessary lesson. a fundamental recalibration of how we view suffering in our society. The most profound teaching we take away is that true change begins with respectful understanding. We must permanently move past the impulse to judge and accept the deeper truth. The people we have seen are not defined by their present struggle, but by their sheer human endurance. The immediate visual, the encampments, the struggles, is merely the surface. To find a solution, we must commit to looking beyond the immediate visual and seeing the person. We must acknowledge the individual histories, the devastating compounding losses, and the profound trauma that precede a life on the pavement. The street is not where the problem starts. It is simply where the support system stops. This requires a collective acknowledgement of the systemic forces that put them there. The collapse of affordable housing, the inaccessibility of care for mental health challenges and substance struggles, and the economic policies that have created this vast disparity. Our empathy must be practical. It must translate into a commitment to support the solutions that offer long-term stability and care. A temporary shelter is a good start, but a solution requires a secure home, sustained therapy, and genuine opportunity. A comprehensive framework that treats the root cause, not just the symptom, the spirit of human resilience, which we saw in every small act of dignity, is not broken here. It is simply waiting for a genuine, compassionate hand to help lift it up. Every person we met possessed an inherent will to survive, a desire for safety and connection. That powerful internal drive is the greatest resource we have in the fight for recovery. Our role as a society is to provide the secure foundation, the safe space, and the steady support, upon which they can begin to rebuild their lives. Ultimately, the path to a solution requires a collective commitment to empathy, understanding, and sustained action. This is a moral challenge that requires more than fleeting attention. It demands consistent, resourceful dedication. By choosing to see, to understand, and to act structurally, we affirm the belief that every life holds value, and we commit to building a society where no one is deemed disposable. That enduring commitment is the most important journey we can ever undertake. This journey into the unseen parts of the city has been more than a simple documentary. It has been a necessary education in empathy and civic responsibility. We have seen the consequences of systemic failure, but we have also witnessed the profound, quiet resilience of the human spirit. The stories on these streets are not just tales of survival. They are urgent calls for a kinder, more equitable society. Let the raw humanity you encountered today move you to look at your own community with fresh eyes, to question the structures that allow such suffering, and to support the dedicated hands working for meaningful change. It is easy to ignore complexity, but it is impossible to ignore the dignity that remains. This journey into the unseen parts of the city is a powerful reminder that every street corner holds a complex narrative waiting to be heard. Let the stories you've heard today encourage a moment of pause and a commitment to compassion. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, share, and comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and don't miss our next journey on Globe Path Travel Documentary.